What's up guys, this is Yacineygo. So Battles of Legend Monster Mayhem, I think that's the name of the set. It just dropped a few days ago, at least in North America, and some places in South America. I mean pretty much everywhere in South America, I think, but only for like the English language. Everywhere else in the world got cooked. So yeah, if you're European or something, I'm pretty sure you're just watching this video and you probably want to kill yourself. I mean, I'm honestly not sure. Maybe they're fixing it or something, but whatever. I'm still gonna make a video on the best decks post Battles of Legend Monster Mayhem, but also before Duelist Advance. So I will be revisiting this, I guess, this kind of video very soon. I mean, in a couple of weeks, because a lot of people don't really care about this set all too much, even though it is relatively important. There's 7 new decks, quote unquote. I mean, it's really just old decks getting new support, and it's pretty good. So yeah, definitely a lot to digest here. But yeah, before we go any further, friendly reminder, of course, to smash the like and subscribe button. It really motivates me a lot to keep making videos like these. And also a huge, massive shoutouts to my Blue Eyes and Crystron Spreadsheet and my sponsors as Supreme Pro. So please check out tsx1.com and use the coupon code YACIN10 for 10% off of your, your deck boxes or jerseys. So you can be absolutely beautiful. But yeah, let's get right into it. Okay, so the first deck is Labyrinth. I can't really put this deck in very competitive in good faith because it's a trap deck, so it will struggle, of course, going second. But it is still a very good deck, of course. But it's just that sometimes you can go first and still actually lose, because there are a lot of good cards that are, I mean, they're just a lot of like staples that are naturally good against Labyrinth, like Ash, Bell, and Impulse. So the fact that you have to deal with all those cards on your Welcome and Big Welcome Labyrinth, it can be really annoying. And your trap cards sometimes, all they really do is that they don't really progress your game state, they really just slow down your opponent. But when you have like way too many of those cards and not enough of the engine starters, then you're really just playing from behind. And that's an issue that I've had with Labyrinth several times. It's like it's a trap deck, so obviously it never bricks, but it doesn't always draw the perfect hands. Every now and then this will be very annoying for you. So if you want to fix that problem, you gotta play the furniture build. But if you play the furniture build, then you gotta start playing, Backjack and stuff like that, and then you play less trap cards, and it's not that it's bad. I still think it's really good, but this deck definitely does have flaws. It's not perfect, but it's very good. It's still for sure a deck that I would keep in high potential every single format. This deck will never suck. So yeah, if you're a Labyrinth player, you shouldn't interpret what I'm saying as something negative, but rather as something very positive. Dragon Maid, obviously the new support, pretty good. It can play a lot of, starters. I mean, it's just... But my main issue with this deck, and the reason why I'm not putting it in very competitive, is because there's way too many normal summons. So obviously you can catch people off guard right now. This is the perfect timing to play a unique deck like Dragon Maid because, not everybody really is familiar with what you can do with the new cards, but it's really just one new main deck monster and one new fusion monster. But to be completely fair, they're so incredibly good that they make the older cards much, much, much better. So yeah, I do recommend looking into Dragon Maid, and if you're a Dragon Maid fan, you're definitely going to be very satisfied with the new cards from Battles of Legend Monster Mayhem. Every single Raisel-based strategy is good, but the best way to play Raisel, at least in my eyes, will be Raisel and Mitsurugi until we get the Gagaga engine, well, rather Gagaga support in Duelist Advance. Right now, the best deck is Raisel and Mitsurugi in my eyes, and then Malice, of course, is number 2, but it's very interchangeable. Sometimes Malice feels like the number 1, and sometimes, it depends, but it's just that Malice has consistency issues, and Raisel, I mean, it's just like everybody's trying to beat Raisel this format, so it's not like you can really catch anybody off guard with this deck right now, because obviously people will not misplay against you, people will have the correct non-engine against you, everybody has Droll, the Chummies, the Truant Skips are very efficient against this deck, but like the baby hand traps like Veiler, Ash, Ogre, whatever, these cards are not necessarily the best. So yeah, you can really still capitalize off of, people still not, being good enough against you with a deck like this. It's just that your edge, you're gonna have to find it elsewhere, I think. And maybe once the Gagaga cards drop, then that will be your opportunity to really take this deck to the next level, because I think it's gonna be much, much, much better, at least in terms of like beating Droll and stuff like that. Mermail, I think, is a deck that it got like, a lot of people gave up on this deck, but I still think it's good, because that deck was performing super, super well when a lot of like the currently existing decks were like very good. So it's not like out of nowhere this deck is unplayable. This deck is still good going second. It can still naturally crack boards. Remember that, Abyss Dweller is no longer part of the picture. However, you still have to deal with Drill and Logbird, which is super annoying. Again, like, you're hand looping your opponents, so if your opponent's playing a board breaker strategy, you're basically always FTKing your opponent, and obviously the Water Bear statue is always going to be an issue. So yeah, if you can really get to that, then it's still a broken deck, honestly. And like I said, it's a deck that is mechanically good going second, so I think it is for sure a competitive deck. There's no way I can really put this deck any lower, honestly. Mitsurugi, pure Mitsurugi, or whatever, if you want to play this deck in a weird way. This is just not a Raisel Mitsurugi, because I think this deck is one step above. It's a good deck. It can play a lot of starters, of course. The only issue that I have really with pure Mitsurugi is not even that it has consistency issues. That's not true. Some people have said that, but I really don't really see that problem. My issue with the Mitsurugi stuff is the redundancy issues. Like, you just have a lot of cards that do the exact same thing. You know, like pre-prep searching Habakiri, but like Habakiri is once per duel anyway, so you can have like infinite Habakiris. A lot of people keep saying that Habakiri is like the MVP of the deck. I hard disagree. That is not true at all. The real MVP of the Mitsurugi deck is clearly Mitsurugi Prayers. That is, like, without the shadow of a doubt, the most broken card. That card is actually unfair. Because, you know, you have a bonus effect if you want to. It's kind of like the Rika cards. Like, at worst, it's a starter. And at best, it's a starter, an extender, and a card that just does everything you can think of. And a card that makes you dodge hand traps. Like, clearly that card is unfair. Mitsurugi Ritual obviously is broken, but then again, like, the ritual mechanic is just like, you gotta play a lot of bad cards in order to make it work. Like, now you gotta play maybe, like, I don't know, 2 Mitsurugi Ritual, the Futsu and stuff like that. What happens if you draw Ritual but no Ritual monsters, or if you draw a Ritual monster and no Ritual spell, etc, blah, 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 and then you draw, like, too many non-engine with that. Like, you can easily draw, like, weird, clunky hands that just don't make any sense. And this deck, it's just that it doesn't do any more than the Raisel Mitsurugi deck. It's just that it plays more non-engine. However, one huge thing that I love about pure Mitsurugi, and one thing that really gets it to, like, the next level, is the fact that it can play Dominus Impulse. That is the #1 argument for playing this deck. Apart from that, honestly, it really just feels like an objectively worse version of Raisel Mitsurugi. Again, a lot of people will flame me in the comment section. I couldn't care less. This is how not only I, but most people feel. So, you know, you want to guess like me, that's no problem. I really don't give a shit. The Drag deck, this deck is alright. I think it's like one of the worst of the new decks. Not that it's bad, but all it really does, this deck is a one-trick pony. All it does is like blow up the board multiple times. It doesn't really feel like it does anything super nice that the Dinosaur deck actually wants to do, like summoning Lagia and Dolka. You can't do that because once you use, I believe, Stego's effect of summon like freaking 4 monsters from your deck, which is a broken effect, by the way, you're locked under only summoning Dinosaur monsters from the extra deck for the rest of the turn. And no, there are no good Dinosaur monsters to summon from the extra deck. There's only really like the Jirac Synchro monsters, and they're really neggy. Like, they're high-level Synchro monsters, and you're using low-level monsters in order to make it, so you feel like you're going plus infinite when you resolve Stego's effect, but realistically, all you're really doing is, like, facilitating an extra couple of board wipes, but sometimes it just doesn't matter against your opponent, so it really does depend. I still think it's a good deck, and obviously, it'll catch people off guard, but as long as Miscellaneousaurus is at 1, obviously Dinosaur is bound to, you know, a certain level of what it can really do. I don't really think this deck is, like, optimal to play right now, but it's still for sure high potential. It's not a rogue deck, I think. Voice is Voice. Usually I'd put this in rogue deck, but because of the fact that Fernando, shoutouts to you, man. Oh, what a freaking legend, man. He got top 16 at YCS Keto with Raisel Voice is Voice, so just to put some respect on your name, my dear brother, I will be putting Voice is Voice here. Of course, there are some nice ways of playing this deck. You can play it basically as a combo deck. You can minimize on the Voice is Voice engine, and the Raisel cards, they really just, they really do synergize. And the issue that I initially had with the Raisel cards in the Voice is Voice deck is that people were playing it as, you know, a very minimalistic package of like 3 X Raisel and 1 Sword Raisel, and it just didn't feel oppressive enough because the Voice is Voice cards, by themselves, they don't generate enough disruptions. However, when you start playing, you know, Ice Raisel, the Field Spell, a Node, etc., it's basically a Raisel deck featuring a Voice is Voice engine. So it's kind of like Raisel Mitsurugi. It's basically Raisel featuring Voice is Voice and not the other way around, if you can understand what I'm trying to say. But yeah, this deck, I do think that because of, you know, it has a lot of skill expression in terms of deck building, and that is something I can absolutely appreciate and get behind. And just because of that, I will put it one step above, like one level above of what I usually would. Now, the Magistus engine, rather the Magistus deck is rogue, for sure. It's not unplayable, but it's rogue. However, the Magistus engine is definitely high potential, but not right now, just because we're missing Spoon. So I'll just keep it there at the current moment. Or actually, I'll keep it unplayable just because without Spoon, it just doesn't make any sense. But the Magistus deck, even with Spoon, I'll still put it in rogue, honestly. So yeah, there's a huge caveat behind this. It doesn't mean that the Magistus cards are bad. It just means that with only without Spoon, because Spoon is only coming out in... Actually, I have no freaking idea. That card was like a jump promo or something weird. Rescue Ace. That deck is shit. Very bad. There's like no incentive to playing Rescue Ace, really. I just don't see it. It's like infinite bricks. Like literally just way too many. And also not enough starters. So it's like the worst of both worlds. Shoutouts to Hannah Montana. White Forest. I think that's like one of the worst, very competitive decks that you can play because... Again, a lot of bricks, and it loses to infinite hand traps. Like, it loses to, like, the chummies pretty hard. Perulia wipes the floor with this deck, where you need infinite summons from your hand to play. Like, your normal summon, all of your special summons from the hand, like the Ubell Star, freaking everything comes from the hand. I actually feel like, if anything, this deck is better into Droll and Fua than it is into Perulia. It feels a little awkward. It also does depend on how you play your deck. If you play with a Fiendsmith engine, then all of a sudden, you don't lose to Droll because you can go Engraver into Sanct, and you don't lose to Perulia because obviously the Fiendsmith engine doesn't care about that. So if you want to make this deck, I think, a little better, I recommend playing a minimalistic White Force deck, so you're not playing the new cards, but you are still playing the field spell, and then you play the Fiendsmith engine. I think that's better. Honestly, that's like, you know, you don't need the Azumina stuff, you don't need all the bricks, you don't need the Abelstar Vengeance and stuff like that with the freaking trap card, the spell card. It's just like, oh my god, yo, like, how many bricks do you want to play? Yes, there you go. Alright, Fossil Dyna, Anti-Bearer Statue, whatever, Anti-Meta Statue Stun bullshit. Yeah, that's clearly rogue, but every now and then it's just gonna top an event and surprise people. But how many dice rolls do you think you're gonna win in a tournament? And that's like, yeah, that's your answer. Like, that's basically like as far as you will go, because when you go second with a deck like this, your main win condition, obviously since you're not playing hand traps or board breakers, is to pray to God that your opponent bricks, which is a little pathetic. Fire King, but it's just that most people who play this deck, they don't really care about Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, competitively. They don't, like, playtest 10 hours a day. They're really just there to have fun and have a good time. Which is ironic, because then you're playing, like, a deck that literally defeats all the fun from the game. It really kills it, but whatever, it's fun. I'm not gonna complain too much. To each their own. Fire King is a good deck, for sure. I think I'm probably gonna put it there. Obviously, it plays a lot of hand traps. It's just that it's an older deck, so I think the surprise factor with this deck is starting to die down. Whereas when Dinkabui won with it, the surprise factor was at an all-time high. So that's the issue. That's the reason why, even though nothing has really changed this deck, I feel like it's just getting a little worse. But again, it is a Dominus Impulse deck, which gives you a significant advantage. Every now and then, you will draw weird, inconsistent hands in this deck, and it's just gonna be a little frustrating. And because of that, it's really difficult for me to really put Fire King any higher on the list. Blue Eyes is a competitive deck, absolutely. It's really hard for me to really tell, oh, am I putting Blue Eyes, like, above or below Mermail? I mean, because of how many people play Blue Eyes, obviously I don't really think there's a single event where I haven't seen Blue Eyes in the top cut. So this deck is very consistent at being good, but it is not, like, insane. Whereas, you know, when Mermail does good, it goes really far, usually. So that's, like, the only distinction that I make, but, yeah, clearly, all those decks are good. It's not really, like, there's a massive gap between them, but whatever. Necros, I think, is, like, very similar to, like, Jirak. So one thing that I noticed with this deck is that it can play, it can actually do some really nice things. Like, obviously Shifter now is at 1, but I remember I got Shiftered against Necros. The guy banished like infinite cards, and then he tributed like the events or something, and then he recycled back like freaking 6 Necros cards from the banished. And yeah, I was getting completely demolished. But this deck, it can play Ultimate Slayer in a super nice way. You know, when you send Herald of the Arclight in that deck, it's like a 1-card starter. So that's actually kind of freaking awesome, because Brionac can search Vance or Emilia, and then it's pretty much like 1-card combo from there. One of the kind of issues that I have is that there's no more Bahamut Shark into Toad, so it's like you're doing less things when you're going first, but you're basically just doing Necros things. So I still think it's a cool deck, but I don't know, are you playing pure Necros or are you playing Necros Mitsurugi? Because both are ritual decks. Doesn't really feel like they have any synergy with each other. But I'm not, like I said, I don't really think that the deck is bad in any way, shape, or form. It's definitely a high potential deck. And worst case, if it does bad, then I'll just downgrade it to Rogue, but I think it's fine. Orchest is the first competitive deck that I will be putting in this tier list. Very interchangeable between like White Forest, Orchest, and even maybe Mermail. But the thing is, and this is the caveat, alright? Pure Orchest, I think, is dog shit, because it suffers from the same collateral damage as Malice, since, you know, Lancia has a turn skip, Chaos Hunter might, like, it may or may not be a turn skip. Bestial Baldric is unfair against Orchest. And now you might be thinking, oh, but Yaxine, Baldric is always a good card if you have, like, another Ladder Dark to tribute on your field so that you can banish a Fusion Synchroxys or a Link monster when your opponent summons one. Yes, but against Orchest, Baldric is particularly good because your opponent's Mech Knight Orchest Girsu will give you a token, and then your Baldric is going to be live without needing any other monster. So if you're playing Malice against Orchest, you cannot lose if you play Baldrics, because now every single time your opponent goes normal summon Girsu effect, you just go Baldric banish, and then your opponent makes like the Orchest Link 1, and then you just go banish on summon, and then, yeah, it's game over. It's like one single Baldric is double interruptions on its own. So, I don't know. It does struggle with, like, that, for example, like, all those hand shops, and then it just doesn't have, like, enough consistency if you're playing the pure build. Like, if you're playing Foolish Barrel good so that you can send Crescendo, it's not good enough. It's just, like, you're relying on, like, the same cards so that you can get your stuff going. It's like Orchest Harpor, Orchest Girsu, Foolish Barrel Goods. That's, like, 10 starters. It's an absolute joke. Yeah, sure, you can play artificial starters like Small World, but yeah, that's dog shit. I don't really recommend it. So I think this deck, it's better off playing as like a pile deck or with like Mitsurugi. Or you can also play Fiendsmith Orchest. You can do a lot of really cool things. You can play Fiendsmith Orchest, Millennium, Mitsurugi, and it looks like a joke, but it's so freaking nice. You can make Zombie Vampire with the Millennium cards. With the Fiendsmith engine, you have a 1-card King of the Feral Imps within Graveyard, as long as you play 2 Lacrima. And then King of the Feral Imps can search your Habakiri, and then you can summon Saji and etc. And then you can literally bridge into your Orchest engine. It's really cool. And also the Orchest cards can bridge into your Mitsurugi engine because you're locked under Darks only, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't really hurt the Mitsurugi cards in any way. So I think there's like a lot of like indirect synergy between all these engines, except maybe for like Millennium, where all you're really doing is like Zombie Vampire. But that's fine enough because the Millennium engine can also bridge into the Fiendsmith engine. So with one single Seng engine, you can mail 9 cards. You can mail 4 with Zombie Vampire, and then you can mail 5 with Pilgrim Reaper. And obviously, when you're mailing, you know, Orchest stuff, Orchest cards, it becomes like exponentially better. So yeah, I think this deck is really good as a pile deck that can really catch people off guard. But as a mid-range deck with a lot of hand shops and like a pure build, I think it is beyond atrocious. So yeah, that's just like my 2 cents. And I will be making a combo video on that deck that I really just teased to you guys like a couple of seconds ago, like very soon, so stay tuned. Anyways, Raisel Heraldic Beast. I think that deck is shit, honestly. I think it's really bad. But whatever, like I said, some people like it. Featherstorm is broken, I guess. Yeah, hand looping the opponent is pretty nice, but it's just like you're adding a lot of bricks to like an already good deck, so why are you doing that when Raisel Mitsurugi just feels much better? And also, it has the same flaws as Raisel Mitsurugi. You might as well just play the better and cleaner deck. Okay, Fiendsmith decks in general, obviously they're fine, but it's just like it's too mid-rangey, too fair, and it's not really good against like Malice when Whitebinder just banishes all of your Fiendsmith stuff, and that's like all you got really going for you. The Primate stuff, I mean, it's pretty much the same. Like if you're playing like a Fiendsmith-based strategy, like Fiendsmith Bestial or like Primate Fiendsmith, it's just like you can play a lot of hand traps, which is nice, but it doesn't make your deck good enough to beat like these decks religiously. But it's not bad. Obviously, a Light and Dark Chaos Angel will also like demolish the Raisel Mitsurugi deck. They basically have no outs other than Imperm and the Harbinger play that I talked about, which nobody does because nobody plays Harbingers. So yeah, that's unfortunate. Okay, I don't know, by the way, if I would keep them there or if I would like downgrade them below, but doesn't matter, who cares. Kashtira is I don't know. Pure Kashtira is probably rogue, honestly. Dragon Ruler is like for sure rogue, for sure, but it's not like a terrible rogue either. It's actually not too bad. Cyber Dragon, even worse than like Bearer Statue Stun. It's on the actually I think it's kind of like unplayable. It's like the best deck and at the same time unplayable and rogue. It's like all three at the same time. It depends on my mood. Right now I'm in a good mood. Obviously I just woke up. It's 3 p.m. right now and I just woke up. That's really pathetic. But yeah, Cyber Dragon, it's like the best deck in my heart, but in terms of like being realistic and not being completely delusional and disconnected from reality, I'm probably just gonna keep it there, maybe. Fabled I think is shit. I actually think it's worse than Cyber Dragon. I actually think it's the worst deck by far. Out of like every deck here. It's terrible, it's garbage. Evil Twin. Yeah, this deck won a YCS, so just because of that, I have to put it in very competitive. I just have to. It plays a lot of hand shops, but it loses super hard to like Fua. That's pretty much it, right? No, and Nibiru. Nibiru and Fua just wipe the floor with this deck. Everything else is very manageable. And yeah, this deck, it just does a lot, and it can play a lot of tech cards, because there's so much room for non-engine that you can start playing cards like Spell Card Monster Reborn that usually wouldn't be good in every deck, but in this deck it's particularly good, because you can dodge Bestials, you can revive back your Trouble Sunny so that you can use the effect again on the next turn. It's kind of cool. I think this deck is really nice, in a way. Gem Knight, Fiendsmith, whatever, Arch Nemesis, whatever bullshit. You can do some cool things with it. I think it's a really good deck. I think it's actually better than Necros, Jirak. Definitely a good deck. It beats hand traps very easily too. But it doesn't really do like Gem Knight stuff. It really just utilizes Gem Knight cards to do like non-Gem Knight things. Yeah, it's just a little stupid, but it is what it is. Ubell is a combo deck that loses to absolutely everything. Like, you just breathe and the deck loses. So I think that's a problem. It just plays like less non-engine, but I actually still think it's a good deck. It's just that you play a lot of bricks and it has a lot of flaws. With that being said, I would probably put it here. Yeah, probably here. Whatever. Who cares? Odeon, whatever. Probably Odeon Fiendsmith or Odeon Traps, whatever. Oh, I really don't care, man. Probably like below Labyrinth, just because the deck is like... It feels worse going second. It feels actually terrible going second. Going second, you're not trying to normal summon your man with a mark. You're not trying to activate the field spell because you're just giving interactions to your opponent. And then you're sending back row and it's just not enough. And the cards just don't feel good enough. Alright, the best deck in the game, obviously by a long shot, is Crystron. Of course, Crystron is the goo. I actually do believe that Crystron is insane. I don't understand why people say, oh yeah, this deck is not even like in the top 10 best decks. Like, bro, you're actually like on drugs. Obviously, we're still missing like a couple of decks here. But no, Crystron is without the shadow of a doubt a top tier deck. And just before people say, oh no, Blue Eyes is better, Mermail is better, these decks are better, I actually hard disagree. I think Crystron is in fact better than all of these decks. It's very like debatable whether it's better than like pure Mitsurugi or not. Well, personally, I think it is, but this deck is just like people keep misplaying against it, so I'll take it. Whereas again, when you're playing like Mitsurugi, Blue Eyes, or like all these standard typical decks, people don't really misplay against you because people are used to playing against these, at least these engines very often. Whereas, you know, against like Crystron, like all your cards are kind of like unique. It's just like you're not playing against Crystron cards unless you're playing against Crystron. Do you understand what I'm saying? So that's the reason why I think that you'll always have an edge playing this deck. And it feels really good. And also, you'll have a huge edge if you have access to my Crystron spreadsheet, which you can get for only $20 US on my website, yacineygo.com. Very first link at the top of the description box. You guys are the best, of course. Anyways, DDD, it's not good until we get the new support from Doom of Dimension. So yeah, it's probably here. Yeah, there you go. I don't even know. I don't care. Memento. Yeah, this is a no-brainer, of course, obviously gonna be like the third best deck after Raisel and Malice, just because the ceiling level of this deck is stupid. It's ridiculously high. And then we've got Punk. I think the new cards are insane, and this deck got spoiled, by the way. Like I think it's an Xyz monster that you can make. It's kind of like a Dean Girsu, actually. You can make it on top of like one synchro. You can make it on summon number 4 or 5, whatever. It's completely cracked. It's actually insanely overpowered, and even the main deck monster is insane. It's like a Book of Moon quick effect. Completely ridiculous. It's a very consistent deck as well. Easily beats hand traps, but the issue might be like the Chummies and Droll and stuff like that. I haven't really tested that, but it doesn't lose to Nibiru, obviously, just because you can negate Nibiru, and it draws like crazy. So, if you play non-engine, you're definitely gonna find those non-engine in your deck. But I do not think it can play any of the Dominus cards, because, yeah, you have like all the attributes, right? Yeah, you got Dark, you got Light, yeah, there you go. So yeah, you can still play whatever else, who cares? It doesn't matter too much. This deck is nice. And honestly, I feel kind of bad putting like Fiendsmith and Priamite above all of these decks. It's kind of lame because these decks have like less of an edge. So yeah, if anything, I'll just downgrade them like right after like the newer decks, right? And then Ubell, I'll also kind of downgrade it. There you go. For no good reason, right? Just to make the video longer. It means more... It means more ads, right, for me, so it means more money. Not really, but... Regenesis, alright. So, it's a mid-range deck. It's very similar to, like, the Fiendsmith-based strategies. It's probably, like, above the Fiendsmith stuff, like the pure Fiendsmith stuff that plays, like, nothing else, just because people will misplay against it, and people will have absolutely no idea how to correctly interact with these cards, but realistically, I think it's a worse deck than both Priamite Fiendsmith and Fiendsmith Bestiole and stuff like that. So you're not really doing much of anything. You don't lose to anything, but you also don't do much of anything yourself. And finally, Tenpai Dragon will always be a good deck. It's always going to be in high potential. It's always going to be able to randomly sack the shit out of you, OTK you, scam you, send you to the Shadow Realm, and ruin your day, which is exactly what Yu-Gi-Oh! Is for, right? We love having shitty days and, you know, just wanting to kill ourselves. That is exactly what we live for. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this tier list of the best decks post Battles of Legend Monster Mayhem. I'm pretty sure that's the name of the set. Maybe I was wrong for like all these times, but who cares? I will be revisiting this, like I said, once we get Duelist Advanced, so stay tuned. And yeah, in the meantime, you guys can expect a bunch of combo videos and deck profiles on a bunch of the decks that I just talked about. So pretty much everything, except that not really, actually. But a lot of them, for sure. So yeah, the next one, it's probably going to be the big pile deck with Orchest, like Orchest, Millennium, Mitsurugi, Fiendsmith. It is completely... It's one abomination of a deck, but I think it's the best way to play Orchest. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys very soon. Peace.